Today's video, I'm going to give you a quick introduction into the software Canva and how you can create basic imagery and designs using this tool. So when you first sign in Canva, this is just a free account that I use. You've got a lot of things here in your home screen. So you can see that here we've got like what will you design, and you can actually look for, say, presentations or social media images. You can even create videos and do other things, but we're going to focus on imagery because the scope of this is going to get a little too far, and we just want to give you like a basic introduction to get you started. So you essentially got most of your designs down here, and you can go down here and see your recent designs or all of your designs. You can share designs, and you can actually pop that and check that out there, people who share designs with you, and even create things like teams and go pretty much down the whole trail of creating like a team workspace here in Canva if you have a business of people and you want to share that stuff around. But the main thing is, if you're looking to create a design, you can either search here for something or go up the top to create a design, and you'll see a list of things here that you can use. And of course, you can pick something from here. You can also go custom size if you want to. So if I wanted something that was 2000 by 2000 pixels, I could do that. Or I could go in inches, millimeters, or centimeters and create something that fits that as well. But if you're not sure how big the file is you want to create, maybe you want to create an Instagram post, you're not sure how big that is, you can see here we've got Instagram post, or I can simply type it in here, Instagram. And you see we have some things such as Instagram post, Instagram reels, and even some themed things such as an Easter Instagram post or an autumn Instagram post. So we're going to actually just go ahead and we're going to just work on a basic design while explaining how these things work. So I'm going to click on Instagram post, and we've got our page here, and we're basically ready to get started. Now the first thing I want to mention is you can also, we're not going to get too into this, but you can actually look up templates here and search for something. If I search for Christmas, I can actually get a Christmas style design, and I can customize that if I want to. I can click on this one here, and I could change Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays and do things like that. And I can just edit pre-existing designs if I want to, and a lot of them are free. But one thing you're going to notice with everything you insert here, whether it's an image, a shape, or some kind of pre-existing layout, when you hover over it, this one says free. But the one on the right here, has a crown, and that's pro. You hover over it, it says pro. This means you have to pay for that design in order to use it. So be aware of that. If you are looking to use things for free, there is a difference in this bottom right-hand corner as to whether things are free or pro. But we're going to highlight everything here and just click delete and clear that layout, because we don't want to start with a template. We want to go through and show you how everything works. So to give you an idea first is how the layout will actually work for you. So down the left here are all items you can add. There are elements such as shapes, images. There are uploads, so you can upload your own files and insert those. Photos, there's text, and you probably won't need this straight away, but folders are here if you decide you want to create folders where you can regularly go back and find certain objects you've starred or purchased and reuse them from here. And of course, under more, you can add in a few other areas such as audio or videos, or even a background that sits perfectly in the background of your image. You can add that. If I click on this, it'll appear on the left here, and I can actually set a background for the image. So if I decide I want to use something like this wood background, I can click that, and it would become my background. So down the left here is where we insert any elements on the page, and then of course here is the canvas that we're working in on the right. Now you're going to notice a few things as well. Up the top here there's resize, which is a pro feature, so you can resize the image if you decide to go with pro. You can also undo, so if I decide I'm going to take this background and delete it, but then I decide I want it, I can click undo here to put it back. And under file, we have a few other options as well, such as adding in rulers. So you can have rulers there to see how big or how far along you are on the page. So when you're creating things, you get a bit of an idea of where you are. And then you can also add guides, so guidelines or margins. So that way, if I want to, I can drag a guideline in here, and I have these two guidelines that I can use for reference when designing. So that way, everything lines up. There's also things like margins, print bleed, good for if you're using print-based designs. So I don't know if you can see that really, but there is a slight margin on the image here. So these are all handy for just adding little items on there you can see. Very faint, but it gives you a guideline as to where you can align things on your page. But I'm going to actually go ahead and turn those off. And you can use them if you decide you want to in the future. And I am going to get rid of this background, and we're going to start working. So what I've got here, again, we're going to go through some of our elements, not necessarily in this order. The first thing we'll do, I'm going to find a photo. I'm going to look for, say, maybe a basketball player. So look for basketball. And maybe we're going to work with this free image here. I can choose any of these images. I'm going to pop this basketball image there. Now what I can also do is I can move this around just by clicking and dragging it. If I click these handles, I can resize, or if I click these flat areas on the side, I can actually crop in on these images like this. So if I want to, I can crop and expand and get sort of cut something out of the image if I want to. So that way I can pop this up here, maybe add it there, expand it out, and then I've got basically got a background image if I decide I want to use it that way. The other thing I can do is I can also add a page, so I can have multiple pages in this document and therefore create multiple images to download, or create a PDF I can download. But we won't go into that today, but it's very simple. You can simply add and you can go from there and remove. So you've got your image in here, you can insert that image, you can crop it, and you've got some other options up here. If you're doing an animation, you can animate it. I'm not too concerned about that today, but you can do simple things like flip it. You can, once again, crop it like we did before, but this is a bit more of a dedicated sort of tool for cropping where you can move things around. And when you're done, you hit done. I'm just going to hit cancel. Just going to flip that back. And you can edit the image by sort of under here adjusting things like the brightness or the contrast, and going through several filters and even adding things like drop shadows and things like that. Worth exploring and having a play with, which we will in a later video. We are going to go through some of these elements in far more depth in their own dedicated videos, but we're going to move a bit quicker so you get an idea of how things work here. So I've got our image on there, and I want to basically now add some text. So I'm going to go here now to our text panel over here. You've got your basic settings such as a heading, subheading, or a body of text, or you can even go down like before and use something that's pre-designed. So if I want to add this, maybe something like cheers. I can add that in there, I can resize it, and just maybe say attention or something like that. And once again, if I grab these handles, it'll resize the text. But if I grab the flat handles either side, it resizes the box the text is in. So you have two different ways of sizing, so you can actually maintain the text size if you like it at a certain level. The other thing is, you do have some options up here, such as the color of the text, whether it's center aligned, left aligned. What we're going to do, I'm going to move this down to here, and then we're going to actually go over to text again and scroll up to the top. And we're just going to add in one of these basic areas here, like a subheading. So this is starting from scratch. So maybe we add in something like basketball may cause serious fun and happiness, or something like that. And this is just like maybe we're working on a social media thing for a basketball page. I wouldn't actually recommend posting what I'm typing here, but to give you the idea. So at the moment that looks pretty bland, but you can see that it's there. If I click on the text, I can edit things such as the size here. I can change the font, and the font does actually preview. So maybe I'll go ahead and use Sarah Condensed Bold. And I'll get this, now I've got something a bit different, so maybe I want to resize that, pop it in a bit. The text color here, I want to make that white. And even this attention, I'm not really happy with that font, so I can still go in and change that font if I want to like something different. Maybe Anton. I get something a bit different again, and I can still go in and edit that text. And at the moment, even though it's white with a green glow, we can change that. Maybe it will actually change that to a red glow. Yep, and it has. So we've got some effects there we can work with, which we'll look at another time. Once we're here, if I click on attention, once again, I've got these effects here. So you can see we've got the neon effect. I can change these effects around, try other things. I can change the intensity of the effect. But when you're editing text, sometimes you're not really too concerned about the effects as much as just being able to make things, say, bold, or if you want to, if the font has it available, italics. I can also left align, justify, right align, and go through all those basic settings there, dot points, all the usual stuff that you usually get. The other thing too is, this is where one of the more handier sort of aspects of it is spacing. If I open this up, now what I'm going to do, before I go any further, down here there's a little panel I can add notes, but there's a zoom panel here I can use to zoom in and zoom out. So I'm going to zoom in on this text so it's larger, and I'm actually going to go down to the spacing tool here, and I can actually make the line spacing, or sorry, the letter spacing between the letters wider or thinner. And at the moment I feel like the actual space between the lines is a bit too high, so where it has line spacing I can decrease that. And now I have some spacing there. Zoom out a little bit, and now that looks a little bit tighter. I can also hold down Shift and just enlarge this and move it around, and I can even group these objects by right clicking and going to group. So now I have this grouped object I can move around. So at its most basic level, we've inserted an image and we've popped some text in there using an effect that already existed, as well as just some basic text. So moving down, we're going to upload something now. So here I have some images in that I've already uploaded, but it's quite simple. If I want to upload something from my computer that's not available on Canva, I simply go to Upload Media and pick maybe this logo. I let it upload, and it will appear at the top here for me to click and add in. So maybe I'll decide that I want, no, I've actually grabbed the wrong handle there, so I'm going to undo, grab this, I'm going to resize it, and I'm just going to move it, which at the moment this is kind of in the way. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, pop that in the corner. So I've got my logo I've uploaded, which is a PNG file or a JPEG or any photo you have. Could be a photo of your family or friends. And then I've got this here as well. So now I've got like a little social media post I can go with, but maybe we want to add something a little bit more grabbing. So we've got our photo, it's not really what we want. If I click on this photo, maybe I go over here to the color, the background color, make it black. I can change that around, and that's actually, sorry, removed the photo. So it's not really what we want. So I'm going to undo, undo, undo. But if I go edit image, I can take the saturation down if I want to take the color out of it to get a bit more of an effect that way. So maybe I'll take it down a bit to there. And like I said, I've got some other options here. So maybe if I add in a different photo, let's go to photos. And I'll search for, we've got this ball, and this ball's actually cut out. So I'm going to add that in. So now we have these two balls on here for whatever reason. I can still edit that image and do things such as add in a drop shadow. You can see there's a slight shadow there. I can click on the settings over here and offset that shadow and move it. I can make the transparency less sort of intense. Now that's black, so it's a bit hard to see. So if I change this color here to red, you'll see the drop shadow has a red effect. One thing you can do is take the offset right down and pump up the blur and get a bit of a glow effect. So maybe I move that over here like a glowing ball. Now this design is not really great, but it's illustrating the point. So the next thing I'm going to look at before we to sort of like get through most of the basics is elements over here on the left. As you can see here, we've got graphics that I've recently used, so photos and images and bits and pieces, lines and shapes, or little graphics like clip art, and then photos, even videos if we're going to create like a video, which we can do in Canva. So we're getting a bit far down. We can add in graphs, so you can explore those and have a bit of fun with them. One thing I will touch on later too is grids, but for now I'm going to add in a shape. So links and shapes. So maybe I want to add in some kind of arrow. So I've got an arrow here. At the moment it's hard to see because it's black. So if I click this color here, make it, say, that color, same color as a ball, I can grab this handle, move it around, move it down and point to the ball. I can also grab a few other options along here, such as the weight of the line to make it thicker, and you can see it's gotten much larger and thicker. I can also change things. I can make it a dotted line, which is hard to see there, and I've got different options for how the line looks. And I can actually choose to have an arrow at the start or a box and really customize how it looks with that. So maybe I move this little box down here and move that to there. So you've got these cool little options that you can use for these graphics. So it's basically just a line, and what ends are on the actual line itself. But you can simply choose nothing. That top one is blank, second one is blank, and we just get a line. So that's pretty handy to know. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab a square like this. And what we can also do with this square, much like any other thing on here, we can grab this ball, hover over the rotate, and I can rotate it. With this text here, I can ungroup this by right-clicking, clicking ungroup, and maybe I want to rotate the attention to one side a little bit. But what I'm going to do with this actual shape here is the same thing. I'm going to rotate it on an angle like this and enlarge it and just sort of have it in the corner there. Doesn't look good at the moment, but if I go here to color, I can choose red and have that red stand out. And then over here, there's a transparency option where I click on this transparency and make that red semi-transparent. So you can see now how you start to get bits and pieces on the page. So what happens if I want this same red corner to be in the top right hand corner, maybe a little less transparent? I can click on this object. Up here I duplicate and move it up to that corner. And then maybe I decide to duplicate it again, move it on the other corner. I decide it's a little bit too much, I can either just hit delete on my keyboard or this trash can to remove it. Also, if I'm afraid of hitting something and moving it that I don't want to move, I can click on that item and click lock. So now when I click and move, it will not move. But I can click on it and unlock it if I want to. So you can see how we start to put objects and text and things on the page. But what happens if I've got this ball here and it's sitting behind, but I want it just to sit in front a little bit? So maybe it's only small and I want it to sit, which is very hard to grab, behind this attention here. What I can do is actually hold shift to select both these items. I can right click and go send backward. And you can see it slowly sends backwards behind objects and reorders them. So now the ball's in front of the objects and I can move it over here. Now our red square's in front of the text, which we don't want, so I click on that. I can right click and send to back. And you'll notice it hasn't gone behind the image, because once this image is full size, it acts like a background. So I can right click, if I'm having trouble removing this image, I can right click and detach from background and go again and set it up again. Maybe I don't want it to be in the background, but if I click it into place there, I can right click and replace background and it will sit in there. So that's how you can sort of play with the background without actually going to this background panel, but you get the idea. So now I want to move all this stuff. I'm just going to drag a square to here. I want to move this text. I don't want to move this red, so I hold shift, click on that object, and now I can move that up. And now I can click off and just move individual elements as I see fit. Okay, so we've got our design. It doesn't look great, but it's there, and we're going to basically export. Although before I get ahead of myself, I do want to touch on that grid. So I go here to back to elements. I'm going to go down. I'm going to search for grid up here. And one thing I can do is add in something like, say, this little collection of sort of like a top and two little bits. I can add that in there, pop it in the corner, enlarge it, and this looks pretty out of place where it is now. But if I go back into photos, I can find, especially these free photos, I can add them in, shrink them down, and then pop them in the grid. And if I actually click and double click in that space, I can move and resize within the grid space. I can get it where I want, click out, and then I can go through and do the same here. Click, drag it into the grid, and it will pop it in there like a small gallery. You can even drag it straight from the panel into the grid. So you can actually create little grids of images quite easily. You create little layouts and get things looking the way you want. So now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to export my design that I've made in Canva for whatever it is, social media, whatever. When I'm ready, I can either share it with someone I want. If they want to make changes, I can actually email it off to them. Or I can go over here to download. I can click download, and I've got a few options. So I've got one image in here that's a pro image. So I'm going to go in and just delete this for the sake of... So I'm just clicking on those images, hitting delete on the keyboard. And I can choose a PNG, which is just an image you can use. A JPEG, which is a smaller sized image, is more suitable for the web. Or if I'm doing something I want to print or something like that, maybe I'm creating an ebook with multiple pages, I can create a PDF standard, or if I'm definitely going to print it, a PDF print which holds higher quality. SVG is what's called a vector file, something you can scale and make large without losing quality. So if you have Pro, you can use that. And of course, if you're working with videos, you can create a video or an animated GIF. We're going to go with a JPEG, and we've got no options here. We can't make any adjustments because we're on the free plan. You can see the crown. So if we had Pro, we can make the quality less or more, or the size less or more. But for now, because we've already set our size, we're going to hit download. And it's going to actually produce a JPEG of the design we've created, and it'll allow me to save it here, which I'm going to cancel and close. So the next thing I want to touch on is we created our design, and if I want to change the size, what I can do is I can actually click here. I hit Control A on my keyboard to select everything. I can right click and go copy. Now I'm actually going to go to home, but I'm going to right click, open in a new tab, and tab across. I'm going to create a new design, but this time I'm going to go with a poster. So instead of actually having to resize, I can right click and go paste, and my design is in place, although I didn't grab the background, but you get the idea, because I can always tab back, maybe grab that background, detach from image background, then I can just also hit copy, tab across, and paste, and pop that image in there as well. So you can see, even though it's a bit of a mess at the moment, if I grab everything, I can zoom out a little, resize it into place. I can actually copy and paste these designs into different layout sizes and work that way as well. So that's a handy thing to know. Also, if you're working with the same design across multiple designs, but you don't want Canva Pro, so you don't want to have to duplicate and resize. So another handy little bit of information. So now that's the basics of Canva. That'll help you sort of get you started. You can start exploring. You get an idea of how it works. You pretty much click, move things around, do what you need to with them. And it's a very easy program to use. And although it doesn't quite have the capabilities of something like, say, Adobe Photoshop for image design, it does cover most of the basics that most people need when creating images for social media or designs for, say, YouTube thumbnails and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more Canva tutorials. We've got more coming, going more in depth into some of these areas. And we're going to explore them deeper. So that way, if you want a deeper understanding of how this all works, we're going to walk through all that in future videos. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.